there, everybody, and you are very welcome to the latest episode of the South Tip Arts Podcast. Well, it's the 14th of June, so in this episode we are going to be focusing on Crinniú, which is a day of youthful creativity, all centred around children and young people under 18. Crinniú is a flagship initiative of the Creative Ireland programme's Creative Youth Plan to enable the creative potential of children and young people. The inaugural event took place on the 23rd of June last year, with over 500 events taking place in cities, towns and villages across the country. In partnership with the 31 local authorities, thousands of parents, families and young people took part in a wide range of fun, free, creative activities, from graffiti art workshops to stop-motion animation, robot making to shield making workshops. A great day was had here at the Arts Centre in Clonmel. And this year will prove no different, as on Saturday the 15th, which marks Crinniú this year, we present Game On in association with LIT Clonmel, and it will be an exciting day based around the theme of games. Board games, digital games, games of all types. We will have an array of game-inspired activities, from giant garden games such as Jenga, chess, snakes and ladders, to game design workshops and board game sessions hosted by LIT students. Visitors will also have the opportunity to draw some of their favourite characters, as well as take inspiration from a selection of stunning 3D models built by students on the Game Art and Design programme at LIT Clonmel. The students from LIT will also host a Dungeons and Dragons session aimed at teenagers, and we'll have an array of international board games for children and families to play. The event kicks off at 10 a.m. on Saturday the 15th of June, that's tomorrow. It's suitable for all ages, so if you're in town on the day, make sure to swing by the Arts Centre for some fun and games. Earlier I met with Roisin O Grady, Creative Ireland Co-ordinator and our Tipperary Heritage Officer, to find out about the genesis of the Crinniú project. So, Roisin O Grady, you're the coordinator for County Tipperary for the Crinniú programme. So, tell us a little bit about the background of the whole project and what was the idea of it?
Well, I suppose Crinniú is really a national day of creativity geared at children under 18 years of age. It's an initiative of the Creative Ireland programme, which is running from 2017 to 2022. And the main focus of that really is to engage communities, people, and in this instance specifically children, with creativity, and to expose them to creative engagement in its many forms. So across the county we have a wide range of activities that are available for people to try out. We had 3 venues last year, we've upped that to 6 this year. I think last year nationally there was probably 500 free events across the country. This year there's over 700. So it's really taken off, and I suppose the main emphasis now would be to grow this year on year.
Okay, so it's across all disciplines. So
all disciplines, absolutely. I mean, there's in Tipperary alone, we have the gaming, of course. We've the focus on the board games. We've got pollination above in Nina. We've got acrobatics. We've clowning in Thurles, and we've got art and creativity in Cashel. There's music in Carrick-on-Shore, and I think there's sewing and bread making in Tipperary town. So you can try anything you want, really. So it's a great opportunity for people to just dip into something that you may have thought that you might have been interested in. Go in and have a go. That's what it's all about.
Okay. So here in Clonmel we're focusing on the gaming, and
that's right,
we'll be speaking to John Hannafin specifically about that. The Creative Ireland Fund, just specifically, I have a kind of a sense of what it is, but whose idea was that? Who came up with it? And
I suppose the Creative Ireland programme itself, it really came from the Ireland 2016 programme. And I think once Ireland 2016 had happened, there was a kind of, I suppose, a realisation at central government level that the way the communities sort of, took it into their hearts, they wanted to kind of get out there, they wanted to be involved, and they wanted to engage with this nationwide initiative. Mm-hmm. And I suppose it was an attempt to kind of tap into that interest and that kind of, I suppose, willingness to participate was how the Creative Ireland programme was born. And I suppose it's a multidisciplinary programme, which is great. It crosses across arts, heritage and culture. And it really gives communities an opportunity on the ground to either develop their own skills creatively or to work with maybe a creative practitioner and to kind of try something new. So I suppose the main aim really is the strand that the local authorities are working on is creative communities, but that kind of crosses over with the other disciplines of, creativity for children, creativity for the industries and things like that. So, I mean, there's huge potential there. Now, it's a 5-year programme, it's 2017 to 2022. But I think we've achieved a lot so far, and there's huge potential for the county, through the lifetime of this programme to sort of develop creativity.
It's actually very noticeable in the general, the Creative Ireland as a body or whatever, is really it's doing a lot of good work.
Yeah.
And
we've had community grant schemes really since we started, because we knew from the 1916 programme that communities were very creative and they actually did want to do things themselves on their own patch. So we run a scheme on purpose every year since, and I mean we would get 40 to 50 applications from communities around the county, and they all vary. There's a great variety of interest out there, which is really strong. This year as well, we've kind of done open calls, which are for larger projects. That gives people a little bit more chance, I suppose, to be a little bit more innovative, and we've got, I think, 8 projects running under that. So yeah, it's great to be able to support the likes of the arts, the culture and the heritage that the communities are really very passionate about. And it's lovely to see them bring them out in a creative way and kind of work along those frameworks.
And you get to follow the sort of stories of all the different groups. And
absolutely, yeah.
If people want to know more about maybe putting in an application for Creative Ireland funding, is there a specific place they should go?
Well, everything is usually advertised on the Tipperary County Council website. So the schemes are closed for this year, but they will be opening again for next year. We would hope maybe to have some notification towards the end of December, and we'd like to kind of be kicking it off again early in January. So keep an eye on the Tipperary County Council website or the social media platforms for a Tipperary Heritage Office or
even just
Tipperary
start
Arts
thinking
Office.
About something now in terms of 2020.
Well, it's always good. I mean, like the application forms, I suppose, require a certain amount of information about projects and budgets and things like that. So if you kind of have your thinking done, it's always good to be able to back it up then, next year.
Plenty time before
the next call, but it will be running definitely next year.
Well, I look forward to Crinniú this year, and well done on all your good work.
And can I just say thanks to all of the venues, because really, I mean, they're the ones that have kind of taken this to their heart. There's an incredible amount of work, and there is really a great variety of opportunities in Tipperary this Saturday. There's a lot of things that people can kind of dip into, so I'd encourage people to get out and try.
Okay, thanks a million. John Hannafin teaches on the BSc in Creative Multimedia, Digital Animation Production and Game Art and Design at LIT Clonmel, and he's the man responsible for Game On, which is our event here at the Arts Centre for Crinniú. I spoke to John to find out what we can expect on the day. Crinniú, John, was the concept for Game On is the event that we're going to have in the Arts Centre this coming Saturday, which is tomorrow. And from 10 to 4 p.m, people will have the opportunity to interact with some of your students and also to play a large variety of games.
Yeah, so it's actually, I think, there's 2 sessions. There's a morning session from, I believe, 10 to 1 or thereabouts. And it's a board game session. So there are 3 to 4 students who are studying game art and design here on the campus in Clonmel. And they're going to just run a board game session primarily targeted at sort of 8 to 12-year-olds. And they've sort of curated about 6 games that they feel those young people will not have played before. There's quite a variety of games in it. There's everything from sort of card games, dice games, one really nice role-playing game, and all of the games sort of finish up within 20 minutes, and they're all pretty simple to understand. So when they were curating them, they were looking sort of for games that you could almost pick up and go with straight away. So that's going to happen in the morning. And then in the evening, they have put together a game design workshop that's looking really, really nice. It's based on Snakes and Ladders. So they're using that as their reference point. Again, because it's just a game we felt that all of that age group would understand. And then they're essentially modding it. They're taking it apart So they'll be talking about like the mechanics that go into a game, the rules that sort of shape those mechanics, the game space within which the game takes place. So, for example, with Snakes and Ladders, it's on a board. And then the objective of the game. So in Snakes and Ladders, it's a race to the end. It's to get to the end. So they'll sort of talk about all of those mechanics of the game and then get the young people to change them.
Would you think that it's fair to say that a lot of people, even the kids themselves, when they think about game design, they probably just think about going straight to the technology. They don't think about like the mechanics. And that board games are, I mean, if you think of any of the big video games, I'm not a gamer, but the mechanics of those probably have a lot more commonality with a board game than you would. Especially the most popular ones, I imagine.
Yeah, you know, what makes a good game, like those really simple mechanics, are true for sort of a video game as much as for a board game. And indeed, a lot of the time, video gamers may overcomplicate the game, and while it might look fabulous and sound fabulous, the game itself might be poor because they haven't concentrated enough on just those sort of core game mechanics. So a really good game, like a big thing at the moment in the last few years, is what they call onboarding the player, where sort of the days of having to read the instruction manual is over. Like no one wants to read the instructions or the rules for the game anymore. And in video games, you can onboard a player very quickly. So you sort of run them through a tutorial level. So straight away, a gamer will turn on a game, never have played it before, and sort of very quickly, it's designed in such a way that they're walking them through what are the main mechanics of the game. You know, how do you walk? How do you jump? How do you push something? How do you pull something? And how do you read notes? Without ever having sort of to read the instructions on how to play the game. So they're very, very cleverly designed. Board games are actually taken from video games in that way. So there's now board games where, you open it up and they say, right, we'll walk you through a gameplay, and you sort of play it, and they're teaching you as you play rather than learning and then playing. You play and learn. So I think what makes a good board game is also what makes a good video game. It's just a different medium. It's like a really, really sort of, it's a really creative space where you're trying to create sort of a puzzle, some type of a challenge. The more you play it, as your skill level goes up, the challenge should also increase. So they talk about this flow to a game. And then there's sort of this array of mechanics, like how do you move in a game? Is the mechanic a dice? Is the mechanic a spinner? Is the mechanic like a game pad controller? Yeah, and then you sort of build up on all of that. So yeah, there's a lot of commonality. So what they're hoping to do, they're going to keep it really, really simple on Saturday. They're reckoning a 2-hour session, and they'll take Snakes and Ladders, and they'll essentially mod it. They'll modify it, and they'll change how you move. What would it look like if you didn't roll a dice to move? Could you use another mechanism? They're talking about things like introducing physical objects, like here's a bucket of slime. Use that in some way as a mechanism to which you move. So it suddenly gets really creative as to how can you use some object, and depending on the way you use it, dictates how far you go or whatnot. And then if you look at Snakes and Ladders, there's sort of this sort of power-up thing where you land at the end of a ladder and you shoot forward. Well, can we change that? Can you change how you give a player advantage? And then there's these obstacles, in as much as they kick you back, you land on the snake's head and you're thrown back. Could it be something else? And then in Snakes and Ladders, it's a board. It's like a grid system. What would it be like if there wasn't a board? So there's loads of things you can change. And the hope is that at the end of the 2 hours session, that we'll end up with games that if people from the street were to walk in and play them, they wouldn't recognise them as having originally come from Snakes and Ladders. Very good, very good.
And I also heard there's a Dungeons and Dragons session.
There is.
For the older.
Yeah. So that's a sort of a real sort of a niche audience there. So yeah, there is a Dungeons and Dragons session being organised. It is subject to demand. I know that they're sort of looking to see how much interest is there, and they'll see what it's like. But yeah, they're talking about writing a simple quest. So you'd come to the session, and I don't know, are you familiar with Dungeons and Dragons? But essentially, there is this sort of quest that you role play, and you play a certain character, and your character has certain abilities. And people invest huge amounts of hours in writing quests. It's almost like writing a narrative for a play or something like that. People invest huge amount of hours in writing characters, the backstories for the characters, dreaming up of character abilities. But for this D&D session, the proposal is to go with a quest already in place, characters already in place. So it's just more for the people who have heard about this D&D thing, because it can be very intimidating. It's a hard thing to get into. It's, there's a big learning curve to it. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of, I've heard about D&D, I'd love to give it a go, and come along and you just sort of join in, and then you go away and they'll give you loads of resources and links to loads of resources. But D&D has become like hugely popular thanks to that drama series called Stranger Things.
Oh, yes.
So like the opening scene of Stranger Things has the 4 young boys in the basement of one of their house, and they're playing D&D. And so it's exploded on the back of that.
Yeah, in that retro sort of...
that sort of Goonies type of vibe to it.
Sounds like great fun. If anybody's around on Saturday and you've got teenagers, the weather isn't great, so presumably we'll be all looking for indoor games to play. So the Arts Centre is a great place to maybe visit on Saturday afternoon. Thanks for your time, Don.
Not at all.
Now, the other thing I want to talk about is a really exciting project, especially for a certain generation, possibly, of people here in Clonmel who, maybe like me, when they were a child, remember this piece of work so well. But at the time, we had no idea that we were looking at such an important piece of art. A very special art installation is coming to the showgrounds for this July as part of the Clonmel Junction Arts Festival 2019. The Robert Ballagh People and a Frank Stella piece will be returning home to its roots and will be on display in a shopping centre in Clonmel for the first time in years. It's even being restored while it's on site, and people will be able to watch that process as it develops and just get a sense of what a painstaking job it is to restore a piece of art. The piece was situated in the old Quinsworth supermarket on Gladstone Street, and even if you don't remember it, I'm pretty sure that when you see this again, it'll bring back just an ocean of memories of days gone by in the town. So Marie McMahon is the Curator of Tipperary County Museum and the woman responsible for overseeing the restoration and exhibition of the Robert Ballagh piece. I had a chat with Marie about both of our memories of the piece in the past, and also how the idea to bring back this fantastic blast from the past came about. I'm here at the museum with Marie McMahon, who's the Curator of Tipperary County Museum, and I'm going to talk to her about a really exciting project, particularly for, I think, a certain generation of people around Clonmel who might remember it was initially called Five Star, wasn't it?
Yes, Five Star Supermarket.
Yeah, and later on became Quinsworth, and the mural that was featured in the common area, I suppose you could call it, of the shopping centre, the walkway of the shopping centre. So, Marie, this piece is going to be renovated and is about to be put back on display again. Will you tell me a little bit about how the whole project came about?
Well, I suppose it's a piece that I came across when I was in my younger years, and when I came to work in the museum back in 2003, I was going through the collection. We have an on-site storage collection, and we have a lot of paintings and everything and anything from prehistory up to modern times. And I noticed these panels leaning up against the wall that were roped off. And kind of in my own head thought, I wonder, are these panels that I remembered in that shopping centre? And I pulled it back and I saw the stripe and went, oh my God, I can't believe that these are the panels that I saw while I was standing in my communion dress coming out of the bakery in that shopping centre. And I was looking at them, and for all the years that we've had art exhibitions, and we collaborated with Stag and the Arts Centre and with Junction Festival,
I always thought at some stage, we would actually put these back on display. I knew it was going to be a big job because you have 16, 18 panels. They're 10 feet high and 4 feet wide, so it's a 40-foot span of artwork.
Yeah.
And it's a modern piece. The piece, it's a screen-printed mural on Formica, so with chipboard on the back and sandwiched with another layer of Formica on the back of it. So it's a huge piece. I knew cost-wise it would be exorbitant. But this year, thankfully, I submitted an application to Creative Ireland and requested some funding to conserve the paintings with the potential of putting them back on display here in Clonmel. Hoping it would happen in the original site, but if not, we have another functioning supermarket here in Clonmel, the Showgrounds. So I got a certain amount of money and we decided to cut our cloth, and we decided that we would be able to afford to conserve 10 units. Each of the units are made up of 4 items, 4 separate installations, and then they follow a kind of a V shape, and it's a Frank Stella's notched V. And Ballagh then upended it and created a rippling effect that allowed for greater visibility to the people studying it. And it was Ballagh's first ever commission in Clonmel, commissioned by the 5-star supermarket. So when the supermarket closed down in the 90s, Power Supermarkets donated all of the panels, the whole installation, to Tipperary County Museum. At that time it was Tipperary South Riding County Museum, and then later years it became South Tipperary County Museum, and now it is Tipperary County Museum. So the idea then, so we had the money, I contacted several conservators, and we have 2 fantastic conservators coming down to work with us to conserve the installation, and you'll be able to view the actual work going on in the shopping centre here in Clonmel.
That's fantastic. I love that you'll see people work on it.
It'll be really exciting because it'll mean that the local public can actually see the whole process of conservation and see how tedious and slow it is a process, and the materials that will be used. We hope to have one of our staff to facilitate that engagement with local people, and hopefully kind of spur on a bit of interest for the launch of the piece on the 1st of July, with the launching of the Junction Festival at around 6:30 or so that night.
Excellent. Very industrial materials. Obviously it was, a commercial space, so the materials used in that are very industrial in a way,
They are, and they're hard wearing and robust for that reason. It was placed as a backdrop in a shopping centre. It had to compete with trolleys, bicycles, people leaning up against it, packing trolleys, pallets, all this type of thing. And it stood the test of time. It was printed on Formica.
Does that pose particular conservational, the fact that the materials, it's not like cleaning a traditional painting?
Well, it's not. Now, it is like if you had a Formica table, you would clean it down with water or soap. But the actual process, you would be able to identify when you go down to actually have it, when you have a look at it in the showgrounds, you can ask the conservators all those questions.
Yeah.
But it was designed to be a robust item, and it did withhold the test of time. Now, okay, it's been away for 27 years, which is incredible to think. It's been out of the public
27 years
for 27 years. So it is wonderful to have it back. But yes, it's mounted on a chipboard, and chipboard at the time would have been the kind of very modern,
economical. It
yeah,
did everything.
absolutely.
Yeah, but it's obviously full of chemicals.
Well, it has chemicals in it, but the Formica, it hasn't degraded at all. Actually,
Okay.
it's actually quite good. There is some chipping on it at the bottom, and that's really mainly down to storage or moving it about. You could have had workers take that down and just pull it down, and there's glues on the back. So we will be able to deal with some of the issues there. There is bowing as well on some of the panels, but we're selecting the best 10 that we can conserve, and we will definitely go back to the project and try and conserve the entire series. But 10 will give you a very good idea of what it would have looked like, and it's wonderful that it's actually going back into a fully functioning shopping centre in the showgrounds. People can go in, potter around, walk past it. It'll become part of the furniture, hopefully.
It's so iconic.
Fantastic.
You've just taken me in to look at it there now, and I know I'm very privileged to get to see it before it actually goes on display. And really, the impact of it is.
And I actually, in the art world,
huge.
I don't think that many people have ever seen this piece of Robert Ballagh. It's one of his first commission that he's ever done, and this kind of catapulted him from being an animator and to an illustrator to an artist.
Right.
So then he continued then to work in different mediums and similar mediums, but this is probably one of his largest works. But I'm not going to go too much onto why he did it, who he did it, and who's in it, because he's actually going to give a talk on the 2nd of July in the main guard. I think at 4:00. It's in the brochure, in the main guard. So it'll be really so exciting and interesting to hear him, and hopefully you'll be able to record it, and we'll have this for prosperity to go with the actual collection.
That would be amazing,
and it'll become a collection in itself, the actual digital archive of it, with this piece as well. And we'll get his thoughts on it and the public's thoughts on it, which would be really important.
That would be amazing. Actually, it'd be lovely to have somebody down there to
absolutely.
capture the reactions.
We definitely will. We will definitely. We will definitely.
That'd be great.
So it's super exciting. I'm so excited with it. And it comes in the middle of us. We're doing a development here in the museum, so we're really up the walls.
We can obviously hear the kind of construction noises going on around us, but maybe just tell people a little bit about what the plan for the renovation
What
is.
we're doing is we're gutting the collections gallery and a portion of the other gallery, the temporary gallery space. We'll still have a space that we can do kind of temporary exhibitions, and our lecture series will, of course, continue to operate. But the other section will be themed around walls of Clonmel, entertainment, sport. They're kind of the main areas where people come into the museum to view. We do have other areas like industry and trade and literary geniuses and giants, but they're going to be relocated in another building outside of the museum. So the plan is that this would be a kind of a central hub for interest for the collection itself, but then we'd be able to radiate out to other buildings and hopefully display other items. So some people, won't see items from, we'll say, Kickham or somebody like that, or not a lot of material about Biankeny, because they will be in another venue later on. So it's been devised under a kind of 3-4 phase basis, depending on funding coming in. So the main crux is to get this sorted under the 6 themes, and then hopefully building a mezzanine in here as well. So you'll have a split level. It'll just be lots of intrigue, really fun information, kind of gruesome murder mystery type things.
Okay.
Lots, things
more
dress up
interactive,
close,
I suppose.
very interactive with the community. And I suppose we've done an awful lot of that here in the museum with each kind of temporary exhibition, and we know what works and what doesn't work. So we're trying to install those elements into the gallery so that there's personal interaction and questioning as you go around as well. Who am I? What is my identity here in the town? What is my identity here in Ireland? If you came from abroad, where do you fit into this town? Those types of things. So there'll be a lot for us to pull out over the years. It'll give us a huge amount of material to develop and establish further projects, and hopefully Creative Ireland and other such schemes will be able to help us kind of catapult those thoughts and ideas. So we're really excited. We're hoping to have it up and ready by the end of July, August maybe, but ready for the school year anyway. So
fantastic.
It'd be great.
Something to look forward to now for September. So just to go back to Robert Ballagh for 1 second, the 2nd of July is going to be the lecture.
It's a talk by Robert Ballagh.
Specifically about this work?
This work specifically, and I'm sure people can ask questions also later on.
Yeah. It does seem a little bit, at odds with the man that he would have done a commission for such a corporate...
I suppose an artist, you don't get a lot of money.
You don't.
And you do need to pay your bills, and you do need to, I know that he, at the time he was offered this commission or asked about it, his wife was going into labour and he just hung up on them. So now he'll explain that in more detail about the whole process and how it all happened.
Such a story.
But it was it was 1975 and, times were tough. And it was. I would imagine for artists as well, being given this type of commission allows you the freedom and flexibility to experiment with new products and new materials.
Yeah, which probably was very exciting.
Is what for him, I'm sure it was. Now,
and actually, even any maybe misgivings that I don't know. I just get the sense that he's very political, isn't he? And outspoken in his opinions and things, which I like about him a lot. But just any misgivings that he maybe would have had about the impact of, or why am I doing this, or just if you just think of somebody like me or you, and the kind of subconscious impact on your life that thing has had.
But that is the power of art, isn't it? That something like this has impacted me and you profoundly all the years.
Even though we didn't know anything at the time what it was.
As I said, I was in my communion dress, and it's my biggest memory from that time. And I remember the colours, and I remember that it was a burgundy and a kind of an olive colour. And then when I saw the picture of it on Facebook recently, it looked like an orange and a wine colour, or reddish. And I thought, that's actually not correct. And then when I did go back looking at it, of course it is.
Sort of that olivey, limey green colour.
But it has a huge impact. It's just so unusual that you have these figures. You know, you see their backs, you don't know who they are. They could be, you could put yourself in any of those spots.
You could.
You know, you've got two men, one guy with glasses, another guy there, a couple, and then three children. So it could be anything. And I suppose that's, as I said, that is the power of art, that you interpret it how you want to interpret.
Yeah.
And, you know.
I didn't actually, even you've explained to me that his children, himself, and his parents and everything in it, but, you know, my memory is that was like my dad.
Yeah.
And one of the guys looked like my uncle, and I just had characters of my own associated with the people in the pictures, which is...
And even when I saw it, I saw those images and the stripes particularly, and I saw them looking at it, and the big huge rubber plant. I remember being really impressed with the rubber plant, and that was very, very, you know, it was a very flash thing,
exotic
in the 70s. Yeah. So, and even the shoes. Now you look at it, and you know, it's still incredible, and it's still, but it transports you back to a time.
Yeah, it really does.
And like we both are really excited to hear what people will have to say about it, and how they remember it. And like we were just discussing it there now, we can't remember, was there a sign to say that it was a commission piece by Robert Ballagh? I don't know. Maybe somebody else in Clonmel will be able to tell us those things, and I'm sure it'll be really exciting. Because as a child, we weren't au fait with how art would be presented.
Exactly.
You know, we didn't have that concept of a label with something to explain something, and you wouldn't have read it. You know, so you didn't have that association till you learnt it later years, either in college or through Stag or different things like that.
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
It's really going to be great.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. Thanks a million, Marie, for your time and for talking about it. And we'll look forward to the renovations and everything, and all the good new stuff going on here.
Brilliant. Thanks so much. Thanks.
Well, that's it for another episode of the South Tip Arts Podcast. Tomorrow, Crinniú, the 15th of June, promises to be a really fun day here at the Arts Centre. So if you're around town and you've got some kids to keep entertained, why not pop in and see what's on offer? Also, I just can't wait to see that Robert Ballagh when it appears in the showground. So keep an eye out for that if you're down that end of the town. Don't forget, if you'd like to contact the podcast, the email address is southttipartspodcast@gmail.com. That's southttipartspodcast@gmail.com. Or you can also contact the office here at the Arts Centre. Once again, thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you again in 2 weeks.